Happy peeps, Suzanna here today for Stash Bash for August, and this month we are putting a dent in our flowers. I have gotten rid of most of my flowers because I did a huge overhaul and I got rid of all of those Prima flowers and all of that nonsense. So I decided that I was going to use an old stamp set that I have. This is from Hero Arts, and I was going to create my own flowers. There are many ways that you can create flowers. There are die cuts that you can get. You can cut them with a digital die cut machine. You could do them with your Big Shot or your Big Kick or whatever manual die cut machine you have. Or you could stamp them like I'm doing here. So I am using the flower basically outline, and I'm using some distress oxides, and when I'm stamping directly onto the white cardstock, as well as spraying the distress oxide with water, which sort of loosens and creates a milky effect and tones down the color as well. And so you can see I'm repeat stamping, and then I'm going to use the inside sort of shadow center of the flower, and I'm going to use different colors and overlay the layers of different colors there. I do go and get some black soot to put a little bit more. It was hard to stamp the lighter colors into that red, that brick red color, and so I get the black soot to stamp into that just a little bit. And the papers that I'm going to use for this layout actually have black in them too, so that works perfectly in that I use the same colors for the flowers as are found in the pattern papers that I'm going to use. So I stamp the center. Actually what it is there's the petal lines, and then there's going to be the center. So there's an awful lot of stamping and sort of multi-generational stamping that will happen. And then what I do off camera is I do get some sequins from Spiegelbaum scraps, and I use them in the center of the flower there. So you can see that I have 2, 4, 6, 8, a fair number of flowers. I think I have 10 there, and I will only end up using 4 on the page, but I wanted a variety of color to choose from. I could have used more on the page, but I didn't want the flowers to over-dominate the layout, and so that is why I just end up going with 5. I am going to fussy cut each and every one of these flowers out. Originally I leave a small white border around the edge, but I am going to scrapbook these pictures on an off-white or ivory background, and I don't want that white showing because there isn't any white anywhere else, so I will go in and close crop the fussy cut on these flowers so that that white is not visible. So what I'm stamping now, this is the 3rd addition to the stamp, is the center of each flower, and that's what I then put the sequins on top of. So these are my flowers that I'm going to use for the Stash Bash. That is what I told you earlier. We are putting a dent in. I do have other flowers in my stash, and you will see that I will pull out some KI Memories. They're kind of like acrylic pieces, and I also have some buttons that go way back when that I don't actually end up using. So now that these flowers are complete, it is time to construct the layout. I am using a collection from My Mind's Eye called My Story, and as I mentioned earlier, I coordinated the inks that I use, the Distress Oxide inks, with this particular collection in order to enhance the color scheme in the collection, as well as to use those particular colors to enhance the red and the green in the photo there. The day that we spent at Niagara was a little bit on the drab side, or this particular day, because we did spend 2 days in Niagara, one on the US side and then another one on the Canadian side. And our Canadian side day, which is this particular day, it was really overcast and misty and kind of blah, so I wanted to use the colors to pop the colors in the pictures here. So the other floral that I'm going to use there is that card. It's a 4x3 journal card with the rounded corners, which I struggle with, but I found that the rounded corners actually worked perfectly with those rounded flowers, and so I liked the way that that worked. And it's a little bit of a grid layout to some extent, because I do cut that card and I'm going to split it between the top and the bottom there. So these are those buttons that I was talking about. I can't remember the name. It used to be a bar, and you would go and you would sit, and there were recipe cards, and you would pay your $10 or $5 or whatever it is and work on a project. That's what those buttons are from ages and ages and ages ago, and I really liked them, and I thought they worked perfectly with the layout. They just didn't have a particular home. I was using them because I needed to, not because they really fit and worked with the page. So those end up being left off camera. So you can see that bottom card there. That is the bottom of the card. And then there's the top of the card that I will put at the top of the page there. And it just kind of heads and tails the layout. Those are the pictures that I will adhere down, and then I'm going to use the flowers that I made to create more of a border. They also somewhat camouflage the gray sky that's at the top of the photo, because the top of the photo is really somewhat irrelevant to the story that I want to tell about our day at Niagara there. So those letters, each of those letters is cut, it's using the font Bebas, B-E-B-A-S, using my silhouette, and I had the 6x6 paper pad, and so I just pulled a bunch of the colors, and that ends up being the bulk of the title there. The 12x12, that strip right there, the arrow, is a 12x12 piece of pattern paper that I just cut out the arrows on, and I am going to put a flower nestled in the center of that to just sort of pop your eye to that particular flower. My original plan, because I wanted to put a little bit more black into the layout, was to sew straight through there, but when I ended up outlining the edges of the page, to have that black line through the center there would be a little distracting in my mind to that outer outline edge there, and so those edges are popped up as well. You just don't have the black stitching, machine stitching through there that I was going to put. So I'm just using my straight edge here to line up all of the bottoms of all of the letters. And then I'm using my Prima glue pen in order to adhere all of that down. And you see those flowers on the edge. One of them is an orange, and then the other is sort of that same hot pink color that's in the collection. Those are the KI memory pieces that have been sitting in my stash for a long time. I will tell you that I did dig through my flowers or through my stash looking for flowers. I'm really not a florally kind of person, so there really aren't many flowers to be found in my stash. So you can see I really wanted to use those buttons and couldn't find a way to make those work. So I will end up setting those aside. So the bulk of this layout really is the flowers, the photos, and then that big title there. I will journal in that mustardy yellow sort of half oval down the bottom of the page there, and I am just going to stick down the center of the flowers that I stamped, those stamped flowers, so that there's a little bit of dimension to the page. These are some leaves that I do have from basil. I do actually have a few flowers. They're things that were really hard to come by kind of things. So these are little leaves from basil. They just added a touch of green, and they made the flowers a little bit more interesting. So I am going to put a leaf here or there. Just again, to me, it just adds that little pop of contrasting color that kind of adds a little pizzazz to the page there. So once I adhere all that down, I am going to take my pen and just draw an outline all the way around the edge of the layout. Initially, I was just going to leave a header and a footer, but it really looked kind of funny. So I did close that off, and you'll see I'm not very good at straight lines. So the very last bit I kind of messed up on, but it's okay because I'm not perfect, and so my lines aren't perfect, and I'm just going to have to learn to live with it. It looks a little crooked, like I've been drinking or something, but it's okay. So that is my Stash Bash page with flowers for the month of August. Be sure to check out my friends and see what else they've done with their flowers. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the box down below. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.